Hello and welcome to our today's webinar on the topic of from AI resistance to AI readiness, shifting mindsets and managing cultural change in the pharma workforce. So I'm Jan Kuge, the director at Qualistry, and I will be your host for today. At Qualistry, we help professionals in regulated industry stay current with practical, relevant knowledge, and we host engaging live webinars and give a stage to leading experts so your teams can learn what truly works in real regulated environment. And today's session is about the human side of digital transformation. AI isn't just a new tool for the plant, it changes the roles and the skills and daily routines of people who use it nowadays. And our speakers will look at how AI touches everything from shop floor operations to quality assurance, which new roles are emerging and which existing roles must evolve to stay trendy and current. Additionally, they'll focus on practical steps to engage and upskill operators and subject matter experts, overcome resistance, and create culture that benefits from AI rather than fears it. And I'd like to thank our partner for this event, Aizon. They specialize in intelligent GXP manufacturing. They help sites eliminate paper, improve yields, and cut deviations, and deploy AI-powered solutions in weeks rather than months. So we have much to learn from them on this topic. And now, a quick intro to our speakers for today. So first we have Giulia Dini. She's a senior enterprise account executive at Aizon. Giulia holds an MSc in biotech and EMBA. She combines scientific depth with commercial experience to help organizations adopt AI practically and strategically. Next, we have Giulia Tomassini. She's the people operations manager at Aizon, and Giulia builds inclusive, adaptive workplace cultures that enable teams to embrace new technologies. Her background in HR and organizational development focuses on employee engagement and smooth workforce transitions. Also joining us is Donal McCarthy. He is a program manager and industry specialist at Aizon. Donal has an MSc in supply chain management and a Lean Black Belt. With decades leading operational excellence, he specializes in helping GXP clients adopt and scale new technologies while managing the people, processes, and systems that make change stick. So thank you for joining us today. And Giulia, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your participation today. I would like to start with a personal story. Growing up in Tuscany, my summers were spent helping my mother harvest tomatoes before the sun got too strong. We would peel them, we would cook them and prepare them for jam. Those afternoons taught me something that still today resonates. Quality begins at the source, and disciplines in process matters as much as the outcome. So in pharma manufacturing, it is exactly the same. Quality isn't an afterthought. It must be built into every step, from raw materials to batch release. And today, AI can help us strengthen that disciplines that we could never do this before. And here is the important part. AI on its own does nothing. What really matters is people, is quality assurance, is site heads, operators, subject matter experts, IT. So what really matters is trusting it, adopting it, and using it in the daily work. That's why we have created this webinar, because it's not just about technology, it's about culture, people, and mindset. Because if we can't bring people on board, believe me, even the best AI model will sit unused on a shelf. So, still, let's start with the scale of the challenge. Of course, we know in pharma that even 1% of yield loss can cost millions per year. And with AI-driven predictions and process optimization, companies have already achieved yield improvement of 1.5% in just 3 months. And on the quality side, AI is also predicting auto-specification events before they even occur, reducing deviations that drains quality assurance personnel, resources, and delay batch release. So this is the scale of the change that we are talking about, that we are witnessing about. On one hand, efficiency gain and quality improvement. On the other hand, cultural transformation. And here in the next slide, I would like to ask a question to the audience, also to break the ice. So please let us know which is the biggest challenge at your site, or if you don't work on a site in your operations, you face today. The poll is open, is a multiple choice. We are eager to know your answer. Has the audience voted?
Yes, so right now 63% of the participants voted, so I think we can right now already finalize it and share the results.
Oh, this is interesting. So we see that 77 out of 109 people here joining, so the majority has voted for deviations, then capacity, and later as a third category, yield. So this is somehow also what we witness in the customers that we help with. So it's, I would say, definitely totally in line also with what we are witnessing. And now I would like to ask a question. Does not mean that you have to answer on a specific poll, but please answer in the chat. I want to go further with you because the quick reality check comes. When you hear about AI, what comes to your mind? Because I'm sure that so many people have different opinions and different ways of understanding AI. So please write whatever comes into your mind, whatever pops into your head, and we can take from there as well. Automation, yes, inspiration, I see. Efficiency, perfect. Exactly. So meanwhile that you write it down, I will continue because of course I have so much to share with you today. And for sure, for some of you, AI means automation. For someone else, so inspiration. For other is efficiency. For someone else, could also mean a replacement. And indeed, AI, it is a buzzword. But let's demystify it for a second. AI at its core, in AI, is a pharma cocktail. You need good data, you need algorithms that turn this into insights. This model don't replace people. They provide predictions and they provide insights. So operators, quality assurance, subject matter experts can make faster, better, and safer decisions. But in pharma manufacturing, it is about people working with predictive and prescriptive models. So statistical, validated tools that help them to make better decisions. So today the focus is exactly on this. How practical, compliant, and explainable AI tools can strengthen not only quality and performance, but also people confidence, trust, and readiness in order that this can be adopted in GMP operations. And this is not just my perspective or our perspective. In fact, if we move to the next slide, there is a broad market opportunity there. According indeed to Strategy & Co, that is a part of the network of PricewaterhouseCoopers, the impact of AI in pharma could reach almost 250 million by 2030. So here is the key. While R&D as of today still has the largest share, manufacturing is expected to benefit from 40% of this impact, really just beyond R&D. So, yet, despite if GMP AI in manufacturing is so important, why it's not so visible, why it's not applicable as of today? And indeed, we call it the hidden gem of AI in 2025. So the value is there, but it's still underexposed. And this is exactly what we see in the industry. And we, as industry, have the chance to make the biggest difference. And indeed, you can see in the other slide that is a report from Simon Kucher CDMO Growth Report 2025. Here, they highlighted this June, they highlighted that CDMOs and pharma are facing strong headwinds from capacity constraint, price pressure, the regulatory complexity, as well as the talent shortage. And yet, when executives are asked where they are investing, most of the answers are often clear. They are investing in AI, in continuous manufacturing, especially in a process optimization, quality control, as well as predictive maintenance. So the opportunity is there. The key question is, why this gap? And based on our experience, based also on talking to different stakeholders in the industry, we realized that there are the adoption is happening at two different speeds. In some cases, there are some companies that are already delivering measurable value. In other cases, companies are extremely cautious. You might say for because they are slowed by data silos or cultural hesitation, as well as the regulatory complexity. But now let's be honest. We said AI most of the time is used as a buzzword, and in each and everything in drug discovery or in clinical trials, for sure, usage of AI is faster, therefore can be adopted in a faster way because you can experiment more freely and because the regulatory framework is as well as less restrictive. But in GMP manufacturing, here is where the real challenge comes or exists for us. Therefore, this is the least mature in adoption, however, is the one that has the largest untapped potential. And here is every prediction, every algorithm, every data flow must end up the scrutiny of quality, validation, and regulatory authorities. Here is where QA and IT concerns become real and where the cultural resistance often appears. This is why AI in manufacturing is not chasing hypes, it's about making AI trustworthy, compliant, explainable, so it can live inside the GMP processes without fear. And this hesitation is not about technology, it's about people and their confidence, their mindset, their trust. Because quality needs to know how I can defend my model to an inspector, while operator and subject matter expert thinks, and probably also right, hey, I have 20, 30 years of experience in this process. Are you really telling me that you are gonna replace my judgment? And IT asks, if this fit into my systems without creating a risk, yes or not? So here is when we say adoption comes at two different speeds. What really differentiates the leaders is not the technology, is trusting, embracing, and the mindset. And I would like to ask you in another poll, another question, if you use already AI at your sites or not, which kind of AI, which is your experience? Okay, I see someone answering, ChatGPT, Gamma AI. Copilot, okay. When you say Copilot, are you saying LLM, Gen AI? I see not so many are answering AI ML in operations, GMP operations, according to the chat so far, those that they are answered. Okay. So we can continue. Thanks for sharing this. We can continue, of course, elaborate more, but I would like to move to the next slides where, so far for what I have seen in the chat, apologies if I have missed, so far nobody has used and adopted the AI ML in GMP operations. So in these slides, I would like to bring to you some concrete results about embracing and adopting AI ML in pharmaceutical manufacturing. So these are some use cases, and I believe that you can immediately see the effect, the business impact from these use cases that we helped customers with. But where I want to focus is not just the numbers. Numbers you can read. I want to focus on something that you might not read and is behind the scenes. So, for example, when we look at use case number 1 in terms of yield improvement, in 1.5% within 3 months, and the customer, by the way, was able to achieve 4% yield improvement within 1 year. Amazing number. But what is very important is the operator effect. The operators could see the drivers clearly, and we will talk later in another more specific example with a specific slide. So the operators were acting with confidence. And in the last use case, right, first time, okay, fantastic. The customer was able to achieve from 70 to over 90% right first time and to have so many COGS saving. But what really is important is the attitude of the operator before and after. Before, the operator, despite 30 years of experience as a subject matter expert, was facing the classic decision questions every day. Shall I add between 4,500 or 5,000 liters in the recipe specification? So he had a range to play. The AI output provided a supplemental guidance. So the AI output, based on real-time condition, was telling the operator add exactly X amount of liters. Again, based on your real-time situation today. So this didn't destroy or disrupt any SOP, didn't destroy or disrupt any workflow. It simply gave the operator another trusted data point on screen. And here is when the operator reported, glad it was not disruptive. It was easy to adapt. Therefore, as a result, this gave to the operator higher confidence, of course, for the quality people, fewer deviations, and a measurable business impact. Therefore, here, where is the takeaway? Change management succeeds when operators and other stakeholders feel supported and not replaced. So what's the big picture? Instead of reacting, investigating deviations or explaining yield losses after the fact, too late, operators now can give a live view or can have a live view of its processes. Therefore, here is where basically there is the real transformation, this kind of shift that is so profound, because you move from reactive firefighting to proactive control, from uncertainty to confidence and foresight. And the takeaway is that the shift is not technology alone. It is really about how people work. Operator move from being a problem solver to being a problem optimizer. And this changed the entire whole culture of manufacturing. And indeed, looking at the other slide, there are so many reasons as of today to defer AI, right? Defer this adoption. So if the results are so real, so we saw the impact in numbers, why not so many pharmaceutical customers, so pharmaceutical companies are further along this journey? Because the reality is this one. There are probably more, but so far these are some of the main reasons that we detected together and linked to people. Digitation. So many companies, they are still facing legacy infrastructure, competing priorities, higher cost, and even when leaders will push for some kind of new technology, operators sometimes might be resistant to change. Hey, I have already done like this for years, so why to change now? The other is information accessibility. Data are there, enormous amount of data. The problem is that they are all siloed. And without a proper integration, people can't see the full and holistic picture. This erodes trust in the output. And finally, getting to insights. Even when data exists, and believe they exist, enormous amount of data, teams sometimes they lack resources or they lack tools in making sure that this can unlock business value. And therefore, skeptical they were, skeptical they remain. However, these barriers, they do exist, they are real, but they can be overcome. So with the right framework, companies can break silos, they can support people with explainable tools, and they can build trust step by step. And this is how adoption moves from hesitation to a measurable impact. And I would like to share, indeed, a framework for GMP AI industrialization that contains, we can call 5 pillars, from data to compliance and tool. These are foundations companies must master to move from pilot to production and to scale AI sustainably across GMP operations. But I would like to emphasize that the most important, or one of the most important, is people. Because in data, we know we operate in the industry, we know data has to be available, has to be digitized, data integrity with 21 CFR Part 11 and ICOA plus principles still apply. So it's not just about volume of data, it's about quality and context. Because a temperature reading and a batch start or a lab value means little unless this is linked or tied up to the right process, line, and history. This is why contextualization is critical, and platforms like Aizon Unify merge IT and OT data into a single model. So AI does not just see numbers, it sees meaning. And without context, without trustworthy data, scaling AI is almost impossible. The other one is governance. So effective AI requires executive leadership, center of excellence, and accountability. Without governance, AI becomes so many pilots that are pieces here, pieces there, but they are fragmented and they will never scale across the organization or across the enterprise. And then we mentioned people, that this probably is also one of the most important pillars, right? So skills and mindset, these are just important as much as quality, because building trust requires role-based training. QA, quality assurance, need to know how the models are validated. Operators need to celebrate early wins. And subject matter experts need to have confidence that the AI tool supports their judgment, like we saw in the case before, and does not replace it. So when data scientists and subject matter experts work together and see this as a collaborator, AI as a collaborator, here is where the magic happens. And finally, co-ownership. We have also, I have to say, what is extremely important in our industry is the pillar related to compliance. Regulators now expect transparency, explainability, and continuous validation. And the draft Annex 22 of this recent summer made it clear. The models require human in the loop oversight, and the life cycle monitoring is mandatory to detect drift. So, in other words, compliance starts to not be a barrier any longer. Actually, could be a guidepost. Done it right, it can give to QA people, personnel, and to the regulators the confidence to accept the AI as part of the validated GMP processes. And now I would like to ask, again, to make this section interactive, I would like to ask a poll to the audience among these pillars that just mentioned, which in your opinion it is the hardest to have in the organization. I see D, a lot of D. Thank you for your comment. We are going to elaborate this later also if you have any questions. And I would like to bring an example, a field from a voice from the field, right? A side head once told me, you know, Giulia, in 2000, in the years 2000, regulators were pushing for product and safety. True. Then they pushed for computer system validation and data integrity. Each time the industry adopted because regulators demanded it. Now, with the Annex 22 in draft, regulators are preparing the guidance on deterministic AI for GMP processes. And in some cases, they are building expertise, I would say, faster than the industry. And this is important because when the regulators create the push, it forces organizations to accelerate adoption, whether they feel ready or not. And this means companies face not just a technology shift, they will face a cultural shift because regulators, sooner or later, they will expect it. They will expect it. So the real question comes, who is going to benefit from this? The reality is probably the entire ecosystem. Of course, finance, operations, site heads can benefit from COGS saving, margin increase, as well as QA can benefit from faster batch release, fewer deviations, as I understand is one of the main topic here or the main problem at your site. So how to reduce deviations and predict deviations. So the entire ecosystem can benefit out of that, patient included. But it's not only about numbers and efficiency gain. It is about people trusting the system, understanding the why, and being ready to work with AI as a partner. And bringing about an example or talking about an example about who can benefit it, I would like to give you an abstract example with the picture related to, and the slide related to the motorbike that is representative of a positive change management in a manufacturing site. This is the story of an operator that saw for the first time several operators. They saw and they were able to link with AI, they were able to see the cause and effect. So they were saying the insights that the AI models gave us or allowed our operator to visualize at a deeper level the consequences of their action. Because normally the operator just enter, let's say, a value, let's say a temperature set point. But with the AI models, they could see how their decision changed the behavior of the reactor. Therefore, suddenly, they could relate and became visible as well the cause and effect. And the analogy is like riding a racing motorbike without any instrumentation before, and all suddenly has a full telemetry system that allows the pilot to speak with the engineer at a much deeper and more accurate level. And this example is amazing because it helps in creating the momentum and the moves from skepticism to trust. So this is when AI stops being an abstract magic thing, but rather starts to be something that can enable operators, subject matter experts to work faster, easier, and probably also more meaningful. And this is all what about change management is, right? And of course, some of you might think, okay, but if the benefit is clear, why there is adoption that is still lagging? Well, that is exactly what kind of question I would like to explore together in the Q&A session, because the answer might depend also on your perspective as well as in your job position, if you come from quality rather than IT on operations. But for now, I'm concluding my part and transitioning to the cultural shift and skills section. I would like to bring, before doing this transition, another example from another person. And I think that this as well captures very well the broader reality. The person, site head, told me that in his opinion, one of the reasons why there is this kind of reluctance in adoption as well is because it's not technology. Again, we have mentioned about trust, we have mentioned about people and culture. And every validated model stalls if QA does not feel confident in presenting or in defending this in front of an inspector, or if the subject matter expert or the operator does not understand them. So this is about combining deep expertise of experienced professionals with fresh skills from new generations. And here is how do we prepare the workforce for this shift. Because readiness, we said, is not just about technology. Technology is there. It's about mindset, trust, and skills. And even the Annex 22, although in draft, reminds us that qualified people between subject matter expert, QA, IT operators must work together. And this brings and bridges to our next sessions, where Giulia Tomassini will now explore how organizations can re-upskill, reskill, upskill, and empower the people to become AI better through AI champions. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you so much, Giulia, for your valuable insights of your session. And hello, everyone. It's very nice to see a lot of you and the diversity that you've shared in the chat. It's going to be very useful for us in this sessions. And today I will be focusing on cultural and mindset shift for AI readiness. And I'd like to start saying that today, nowadays, we always hear about technology or processes, for example, not being ready for AI. But what about people? What about culture? I believe that transformations should always start with the mindset and cultural shift from top to bottom within each company of any industry, not only the pharmaceutical industry. And circling back also to what Giulia previously shared about change management, I would like to share a few data that are very interesting to then attach what's coming next. So if we take from a McKinsey survey, we can see that almost 70% of the digital transformation is failing due to poor change management. And as a AI resistance, we can see that pharma professionals, they do believe that it's the top area, almost 51%, which are incredible high numbers if we consider that we are shifting for AI readiness. And what we see being the top three causes of AI resistance as of today, at least, are these three. So starting from the fear of job loss, lack of understanding, and uncertainty about regulations. If we think about job loss, is a common feeling, or has been a common feeling in the past few years, that because of AI, a lot of people will lose their job, automation will replace them. But actually, if you see this from the slide, you can see that actually 43% of AI-related job posting have grown annually since 2018. So there's been more job opening. And another interesting number that can also ease the fear of job loss is actually the hiring manager. 70% of them are struggling a lot to find pharma people that have AI talent as well. So it's been very hard for them to replace or hire with those skill sets. If we go to the second, let's say one of the top three, the second one of the top three is the lack of understanding. Well, we can say also the unknown, and the lack of understanding, we mean the practical application of AI, because it's very important that employees need to understand and be part of the decision-making process when you adopt AI in the AI adoptions. And what we've seen is also that almost 71% of different organizations, not only in the pharmaceutical space, do not provide any kind of guidance on how to use AI tools only in the workplace. And also what has been suggested by a professor at the Maastricht University is that AI adoption, especially in any organization, should be approached not only as a one-time implementation, but actually as an ongoing strategy and learning processes, because you don't implement AI just one day or 1 year and that's it. It's something that has to constantly change and reassure and be clarified to the whole company. And last but definitely not least, for any of us in the pharmaceutical industry, is the uncertainty about regulations, because let's be real, compliance is a big part of our job. We've seen it in the poll before as well, and regulation is a huge aspect of our industry. And often when we see reports, the data doesn't back up the pharmaceutical industry. It's very general. So let's say decision maker or top executive and the decision-making places in different companies are struggling to make decisions because they don't have enough data. And as well, the increase of AI regulation, or the keep changing of AI regulation, it's a really could be a really issue for some companies. But actually, you can see on the slide, the regulators are not holding us back with AI. There's plenty of studies and material that have been shared by whether it's the FDA, the EMA, that are sort of encouraging the use of AI, of course, under compliance and a validated and an ethic manner in the whether it's drug manufacturing or how to use artificial intelligence in the medical product life cycle. So I understand the fear, but we actually, if we dig deep and we understand how using AI in our industry, we can actually see that regulation are helping us to navigate these tough times with AI. If you have any question or consideration about that, please feel free to leave it in the chat. I will be happy also to reply and to start a discussion there. And going into the next part of my presentation, talking about the workforce, so employees, people, famous word people. I would like to ask you and start with a question, a poll, and the question is: in your experience, has age been determining factor when it comes to attitude towards AI? I will leave you a few seconds to answer, and then I would like to share also what has been our experience here at Aizon, for example. But feel free to, apart from only answering the poll, give some example and leave some comments in the chat, because your diversity is really interesting also to answer this question. While you keep, and we see the results, I'll keep sharing, I'll start sharing also my, our experience here at Aizon. And here we mention age, but it's also, we can call it diversity, because here at Aizon we are 140 employees as of today, and we have more than 30 nationalities. And within that, we have a very diverse workforce that takes from very young employees, maybe very fresh out of university in their first work experience, for example, and extensive professionals that have been in the industry for 20 or 30 even plus years. And of course, as you can understand, they combine and they bring to us a total different background, generation, mindset, and way of working. And we could consider that the young people are more, let's say, open, and they have a sort of easiness into what's AI nowadays, because most likely they've seen. Okay, so I'm seeing the results now. So I see that there's a bit of a different opinion, and also it depends from person to person, and I totally agree with that. And what I was saying is also that normally the normal consideration could be that young people is more open to AI. It's easier, most likely they've studied it or they used AI in the university, for example, and maybe someone that has been studying or working or have been working already for 30 plus years, what they've studied back in university is very different from what people are studying nowadays. But I would like to also mention a sort of paradox, because if we consider that studies show that the jobs that are more at risk as of today are actually the entry-level jobs, that we could consider the young people, if we can say like that, job. And actually the more experienced people that they bring with them, their knowledge, their 20 plus year knowledge, is also similar to what Giulia was saying before. It's extremely valuable and should not be underestimated in any job, in any search or any industry. So again, I think companies should take the best of both worlds and find a way to make this a collaboration. So take both the generation, the different background, people from IT, people from pharma, or from a totally different area, from different generation, and sort of find the best way to make sure that they feel the same way, or they're going toward the same direction if we want to prepare the workforce for AI readiness. If we go towards the upskilling and reskilling, probably it's easy to think that companies should just simply hire new talent. You know, probably it's easier. Let's go to the market and let's hire the new people with AI skills. But actually, as we said before, it has been very, very hard for hiring managers to find talent that combines pharma and AI. So pharma professional, they actually have a big advantage of maybe 20, 30 years of experience of their knowledge that could bring to the equation when thinking about their next steps or their career. So that's when upskilling and reskilling, they become very important, both for employees and companies. If we have to briefly say that the difference between upskilling or reskilling, what we consider upskilling is the enhancement of existing competences or the current role, whether it's a better performance or better use of new technology. And what we consider reskilling is preparation from a new role. It could be a completely new role, new set of soft skills. And in the light of the impact of both upskilling and reskilling, for example, we can see that upskilling has shown more than 25% of retention increase into the workforce. And I would like to also mention a company like Merck has upskilled more than 50,000 employees with digital courses and generative AI quizzes, and that has resulted in, for example, boosting of productivity and interactive learning that has been sort of tailor-made according to individuals. So has been very successful for also pharmaceutical company itself. And when we talk on the other side, for example, about reskilling, reskilling is crucial and critical because it allows companies to build a competitive advantage very quickly, and by training their proper talent that is not actually available in the market yet. So by reskilling their own employees are actually being faster than majority of the competitors that are still looking for talent that most likely doesn't exist, or that they will have to train once they join their company. So what we see is that both upskilling and reskillings are critical to each company, and each company should maybe use both of them or divide how to apply both of them within their company, and understanding for which employee or for which team makes more sense, maybe upskilling, or for which one makes more sense, the reskilling. To sum up, let's put it like that, what we suggest in terms of framework, the framework we suggest would be, number one, assessing the skill gap. It's important to understand where your workforce stands, what knowledge they have, what knowledge they're interested in, what are their fears, as we said before, and concerns, to get to the second point, which is tailor training. Understanding your workforce and understanding what skill gaps they have is going to make easier for HRs and managers. Managers are very important into this change as well, to tailor trainings according to different needs and paces. Not everyone has the same time to learn new skills, for example, or the same interest, the same fear. So it's very important to tailor training. One training for the whole company is not going to bring you to the desired outcome. And last but not least, we are data people, so we have to measure progress with data-backed outcomes. So it's very important that there is a sort of numbers and data that will sort of let you know how has been the improvement and how's been the reaction from also the workforce, the outcome of what you've been implementing. And now I would like to hand it over to Donal McCarthy, who is going to share his experience of change management in a pharma manufacturing plant. So thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Giulia. I'll just start on so I suppose what I want to bring you through today is an example of where we started bringing in new technology and AI models, etc., into the production floor for use in the plant. And I suppose this was not a throw a switch and it all happens. This particular example happened we can look at it over 3 years. It started off with a degree of skepticism where they viewed AI and the use of advanced technologies as a bit of voodoo. And it was, I suppose, the approach that was taken is, let's see if we can develop a pilot. Let's see if we can demonstrate how it works and all that. And then I suppose finally, once we can get it up and running and we get a bit of momentum, we can see and we can feel the advocacy by the people using it, by the operators, engineers, etc., where they look on it now as a tool that supports them in their business, and they depend on it to make sure that they depend on it for doing their operation. So bear with me for a moment, and I'll bring you through the example. And I'll just do a couple of slides here. What the situation was when we started this process. We were getting, and this is, if we look at some of the examples there, it's mentioned in middle of the slide about deviations. Deviations was probably one of the biggest consumers of effort by our engineers and quality resources to try and follow up. And complete investigations and do CAPAs, etc. But there was also other parts of the business that are covered there. The inconsistency and repeated process interruptions or failures. For example, we had often up to 4 repeated tests completed on a particular process that it took 4 hours to complete the testing on a particular sample. So there was four times that delay being put in, but it was about the resources also being used up in taking samples, the analyst spending the time doing the analysis, the piece of equipment running and consuming energy. So there was a whole load of indirect hits here with regard to the inconsistency of the product that was being made. So there was from the people side of the house, the people that were working on the process, they would feel as though people are asking them who's responsible for whatever the issue was. There was a very kind of a feeling, whether it was it was a perception, because I suppose knowing it from the side of the people, some of the people asking the question, it was being asked from the perspective of wanting to understand the issues, etc. But there was a feeling of, "Ooh, am I being blamed for this and that?" And this is some of the background to the issues that are happening. There was a quote here from a leader in the business that one would think that after 20 years of production, we should have seen the deviation levels drop. Why are the levels remaining so high? And this so for year after year, we're still generating loads of deviations. So we brought them on the journey. We implemented the model, and I suppose what we can say, this introduction of the model didn't happen overnight either. People had to be brought brought through, trained on how to interrogate, how to interpret what is being presented on the screen, and to be able to give them the tools to be able to interrogate what is being told to them on the screen. So what we were found through the use of the tool, we created the situation where the operator was in a position where they could predict that something was going off track, and they could take an action to correct it and to avoid a more serious impact or a deviation. So they were looking at what was going on and figuring out what the reason underneath it in real time on the production floor. And we get to the point then where there was, that we have a process that if, the majority of the time it remained within the specification of the model, and you had the almost a guarantee, but there's certainly a good information for the operator to know that what they were producing today was right first time. The impact of that, elimination of all the sampling and analysis that they were failing. We improved the cycle time on our process by 30%, around 30%. A further evolution of this, and this is where we work with the guys on the production floor, where they say, well, if we feel so confident, they were getting so confident about the model predicting the result that we got to the point of, can we go straight to discharge and not wait for a sample result? And again, this is, you don't do this blasé, but you would go in, you do a risk assessment, and you prove that this is an acceptable way forward in a way that can be validated, and we can present this to a validator. And a quote from the operator here, when we're using this, when the modeling system was taken down for maintenance, the quote here from one of them was, "I'm not starting the next batch until the modeling system is back from maintenance. I'll be sampling for the night if it's not available." This is the impact on their work, that they felt that this became a crucial part of the way they ran their process. So some of the lessons here for readiness, it's so important to listen to the team at the front line. the people that are going to be using the technology. And so important to engage with them, work with them as it is being brought in, and build trust that what it is telling, the story it's telling, it's seen in reality. Some people see new technology, it's like something new to learn, especially, and this would have been seen for people that would have maybe 10, 15 years experience of working with the process. They know it inside out. So what's this new technology going to do? Perhaps it's going to complicate my job. And this is the fear of embracing new technology. So, again, from the operator's perspective, a quote here, the technology. So you're telling me you can predict quality by looking at the 15 variables, and that to them, and the company that I was with encouraged a speak up mentality, and they said it straight. It's just, this to me is voodoo. And I suppose part of the thing here is you got to listen to them, and we got to build the credibility behind it. There's no doubt tech complicates things, but we need to work with that just to make it more understandable. There's a what's in it for me in this. How will the technology impact? And Giulia mentioned there about, does it impact my job? But, and I think it was mentioned in maybe one of the questions, how do we build the credibility behind it? How do we build the business case almost behind it? When we put technology in and we get into a more predictive mode, we start eliminating some of the problems. So we start eliminating less involvement in deviations. So we have less deviations, less time spent working on them. And then we're looking at, well, perhaps it's an opportunity to work on yield improvements, throughput improvements, and more, things that are going to build value for the business. And the other thing, I suppose, what's in it for me, for the people using it, people are eager to do their best. We had a very, very good connection with the patient. What the medication that we were manufacturing was a life-saving one. If the patient didn't get it, then there were going to be consequences. So making sure that we were able to manufacture a pipeline, but also to make sure that the quality was as best as possible, because we made that connection. And this was very important to them. We're not just making, making toothpaste. We're making medication for a patient, and to do it as best we could was super important. So I suppose what we did, we prioritized experiential learning. We slowly introduced them. We brought them on the journey. We looked for them to understand, to make it understandable, simplifying the language. I suppose there's a lot of 3-letter acronyms, and when you bring in new technology, there's new terms come in. We need to get back to, these are the guys that are going to be using it. We need to be able to make sure that it is in a way that works for them. Whatever feedback they have, we need to listen to it, and we need to see how we incorporate that feedback into the solution. One of the models that was generated, we generated the model, and when we started working with it, we said, oh, and we're going to have to ask them to check the pressure, and we're going to check other variables. And then when we sat back and looked at it, we have to walk in their footsteps. And if we're walking in their footsteps, any one of these things that they don't check could result in so the feedback from them, could we incorporate this into the model? And this made for a more robust model, made it simpler for them to make a decision. We need to build the credibility for the change. So showing success, and in the next, the things that, if we detect issues, and there's an example here where so the operator was working on this process, and he could see nothing had gone outside of the specification limits, but they noticed a trend that was edging towards the specification limits. They diagnosed it. They got in, they identified a vacuum problem. The engineer was contacted. They were able to proactively go in and plan maintenance work in a suitable window in the next week or two, to be able to proactively address the problem that wasn't a problem here and now, but in 2 or 3 weeks' time, it would have been a problem for sure. And the other thing here is the other people that need to be involved in this, the other people that have a skin in the game of reducing deviations, improving quality, etc. The experts, subject matter experts, engineers, quality team, the QC analysts, make sure that the benefits of the technology are experienced by them, so that they can focus on the increased yield and throughput, the less time investigating, etc. So this was, this, as I said, this isn't something you just throw a switch and introduce it. This is working slowly to build credibility. The user experience. So with regard to the change management, how did we facilitate the change management? User experience would have been critical. So the design of this was always about with the user in mind, making sure that what's presented to them on a screen or a trend or a graph was understandable, and that they had the tools necessary to be able to dig in and find the information quickly that allowed them to do their job. We had to make sure that it was easy to navigate. I mentioned a moment ago about the no 3-letter acronyms. This had to be understood quickly and easily understood. And I suppose the example we have in our business here would be where we're looking at, for example, our electronic batch records. We make it our business to ensure that the look and feel of the paper batch record that is currently being used, say, for that when new customers come on board, we make sure that the look and feel is very similar, because that's critical, that it's easy for the user to adopt. And we deliver on the high value features. For example, we have technology that does review by exception. Why wait till the end of a batch to try and pick up an issue, maybe a week into a batch review? If you can detect it and raise it, if it happens today and somebody knows about it and investigating it today, the information is fresh, and you can come to a resolution much quicker, and you also avoid long delays then in releasing of batches, etc. A huge amount is involved in like poke-yoke, which is like mistake proofing. So, trying to build into this that you cannot go forward unless something is completed or signed, etc. And in the example that I mentioned there a moment ago for the operator, it was, in that situation, what we asked them to do was to print off the trend and verify that nothing was between, sign it off, and glue it into the paper batch record. That's what was being done at the time. But this was making sure that we didn't go forward without the evidence, and that was mistake proofing. And the other thing is that's important for the engineers and the quality people, being able to do performance monitoring and the critical parameters. We tend to put that at the end of a campaign or at the end of a year. They're on a very kind of there's a time frame for it, but we should be in a position, and this is the listening to the users. Why do we have to wait to the end of the year to do a review on something that may be going out of trend today or this week? So being able to provide the information in a timely manner so that they can do something about it now, and you can't do anything about it when you're doing your annual review. And finally, I want to bring you through one of the models that we're involved in for change management. It's called the McKinsey 7S framework. And inside in this, if there's a change happening, you look at the skills. Each one of these bubbles is skills, style, staff, strategy, structure, systems. These are all the things that are implicated, the physical things almost that you have to change, but right at the center of the whole lot are the shared values, which is like the culture, the beliefs, the principles, the norms, wanting to do the best for the patient, that kind of thing. But these are the 7S model. When we're making a change, all changes should be considered the impact on, for example, the systems. If we're bringing in a new AI model, what systems are going to be impacted? But not alone that, how are people going to be impacted? What staff, what skills are going to be needed, etc. So it's worth, if you need more information on this, for sure, it's a published framework. It's worth looking up. But this kind of rounds it off. And I suppose finally, then, I suppose one of the things, and I think it was mentioned earlier on, this is about, when we look at some of the people that have really good AI skills and that coming out of colleges, we're in the business of I suppose, making sure that we upskill them on the pharma side of the house, to make sure that, when you work, you understand what the guy at the front line is saying, you understand what the engineer is their experience, etc. So it's so important to have. It's not about the tech, it's how we can improve the pharma industry. We're doing it through tech, but our whole objective here is about improving how we manufacture and how we guarantee quality. And I think that's it. Unless anybody has any questions, I think we'll go to the Q&A section now. Is that that's it? So, Giulia?
Thank you very much, Donal. I was wondering if by any chance you were curious in possible recommendations related to the AI adoptions to make this more sustainable. Based, of course, for enterprise adoption. So this is the light on how I'm gonna look at it. So based on our experience, based on failures as well, and based on learnings, I would say that probably we can summarize for recommendations. Might be the key one, there might be others, okay? But when I look at AI sustainability for enterprise or corporate adoption, the first that comes to my mind, and I think is very valuable, start with really what matters most. So what matters most could be also one single product that moves the needle in your site, in your plant, or could be, if you come from a CDMO, could be a product that basically you are with your sponsor, you are starting to have problems, and the sponsor might consider other CDMOs, therefore to replace you. So because you are providing problems in terms of probably could be yield deviations, therefore there is a scraps of the batch and you need to justify, or possible could be not expected batches on time delivery as was according to the contract. So really focus not on each and everything, but focus on one aspect that is really, really important, that can move the needle for that. And therefore, you can have early wins, and this will help to create confidence. The other aspect is related to the collaboration between a subject matter expert, quality assurance people, production. These people, they must co-own the project. Because remember, before we talked about data silos, and one of the key things that will facilitate the AI adoption is to make sure that AI becomes an enabler and not a threat. And to do this, not only should be silos, data that shouldn't be silos, but also people across the site they have to co-work together, they have to collaborate together. And finally, but not only, investing in transparency and in training, right? So when we look at quality assurance, people from operation, subject matter expert, again, they need to understand the why a prediction is made. When they understand why, the trust grows, and because people, they see this kind of effect of cause and effect, and they don't just see the output. And also build a center of excellence. What is very important is that pilots don't become pieces of one pilot here in yield improvement, one pilot here in reduction of the deviations or prediction of the deviations, but they are AI becomes a journey, and therefore it becomes a sustainable journey, right? It's not isolated pilots. So I believe that these will be some of the most meaningful recommendations to unlock the value and to make sure that each pilots sooner or later becomes sustainable, and of course the move you can call to production. And always considering the fact that AI does not replace humans, works with human, at least the AI where we work here in AI machine learning for GXP operations. Okay, so the ultimate goal, the real vision, is industrialization of your operations in real time, where every process is continuously monitored, optimized, and supported by AI models, where the human person still retain the oversight, the judgment, and therefore has trust on it. Just wanted to say this, maybe we didn't touch before, but I thought that was kind of important at least to tackle it. I see that there are some questions in this chat and in the other chat related.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the Q&A.
I've actually sent some replies through the chat. I've seen some question on fear of AI stealing their job, of course, and of layoff. And I've shared an interesting link of the World Economic Forum that talks about the future of jobs and actually the importance of upskilling, and saying that the most wanted skills, of course, are AI related, especially in the next 10 years. Also, we cannot hide the fact that the economical situation in general, it's tough, and layoffs is part of some of those big companies. And unfortunately, I cannot guarantee that the best, all of your skills, like you're not going to be part of this layoff, even if you have all of those skills. But as a professional, I guess the best way for you to be on top of the market, on your market, according to whatever role and role you play within a company, it's important that you stay ahead, you understand the struggles of the next year future, and you're not closing off on learning new things, finding better way of doing your job, learning from colleagues, and making sure that you stay ahead. We're living in a century of continuous technologies, and unfortunately we've seen so many changes in the last 100 years that people haven't seen maybe in thousands. So it's a probably difficult time as a professional worker, but I guess we also have a lot of tools to continue learning. We have access to a lot of new material to learn, platforms that are a very good source of learning. So I guess the best thing that you can have is the mindset, as Giulia was saying also before. Mindset is key, whether as a company or as a person.
Right, there's a question: how do you convince your company who is extremely conservative and does not allow the use of AI? I suppose one of the experience I probably could bring to the table here would be to find out what, you know, it's so important to understand what is driving the conservativeness. if we're, the example I put into that I presented today was about building some experiential stuff and being able to demonstrate that, with the use of AI or with the use of some of the tools. I remember at a very early stage in this, if we were using Minitab or some other data analytical tool, which was out there as very cutting edge at one stage, would we have, would we question that now? And if we look back, in a couple of years' time at today, we'll probably be asking, what's the voodoo associated with AI now? Because the colleges, there's a lot more focus now on learning what AI does, and being able to try and take that skills and whatever to be able to build business cases and maybe build small and build credibility, and then through that in a lot of our projects we do a proof of concept, with proof of value, before somebody jumps in to go full on with whatever the project is. We do a proof of value, and the amazing thing about this is how fast you can get to value, and that's sometimes you just have to sit down and prove it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but hopefully it helps.
I can answer some questions. I'm not mentioning the name, but I see there are a few questions from different people, and I will try to combine for as much as I can in one answer. So I start with a question that I see related if AI can help in predicting deviations. The answer is yes. I would like to, as we are in this webinar, and I believe that the majority of you and us comes from software or from pharma or anywhere regulated environment, I would like to make a big distinction. So today we talked at the beginning, I open up with the concept of AI that is a cocktail. Now, when we work in the GMP environment, Aizon works mainly in AI machine learning for GMP purposes. Of course, LLM, copilots, Gen AI can be used, but there is a total different situation because that does not apply to GMP processes. So with this kind of context in mind, we support the customer not only in predicting potential deviations, and therefore here the AI is what you call predictive as well as prescriptive. So not only is gonna tell, hey, that within 15 minutes you are gonna have a potential deviations, but it's gonna also tell, so goes beyond the prediction, it's gonna recommend with an alarm to operator, subject matter expert, to quality, which action to take. Then the human in the loop, and the human takes the final action, right? So in this case, I confirm yes, and not only can predict deviations, but also provide prescriptive insights. Another example can be related to prediction of the yield of a batch before the run is finished. AI machine learning in GMP environment can do that in a prescriptive way, predictive insight, as well as can provide the prescriptive insight. Therefore, if a fermentation runs off a drift, the model recommends adjusting pH by plus 0.2 to keep yield stable. And this always within your SOPs, right? We don't disrupt anything. So it has this kind of balance of being both predictive as well as prescriptive. So we have tackled example deviations. Now we have tackled examples of yield, but same story applies to potential predictive maintenance. Look at that the pump shows with a 90% likely to fail, that the system recommends to schedule maintenance within the next 48 hours. That allows the person to take action for. And I just wanted to answer some of these questions that I saw here. Sorry, while the LLM, just to not create confusion, you can consider LLM more as a translator, is a sort of AI, is more a translator, so helps human to solve a complex, you can call data tasks. For example, if you need to interpret SOPs or summarizing a few batch records together, right? But it's not really applied to the GMP operations. And that becomes a total different story that is also much harder to validate deterministically.
So yeah, I mean, the learning, the process needs to be learned. So yes, there's learning to be able to, I mean, to be able to predict deviations, you need to learn from what happened previously and to learn what the process conditions are. Kind of like, I don't know, in production terms, like building almost like the golden batch. But if we are able to identify other batches that have had issues, and we can use them as challenge batches or test batches to test whether the model would have predicted whether that particular deviation happened or not. But definitely it would have to learn first and then predict. Yeah, so training. And there's a question there about, do you think it's more difficult to implement in manufacturing? I think there's Giulia mentioned it about historically we have data silos. Being able to put the data there's a huge amount of data in loads of different silos around the plant, and the problem is contextualizing it and try and build it together. Put it together so we're able to put context on a batch. We used to have a term of like silos of excellence, almost like two plants on the same site could be doing things completely different. So being able to get the data, some of it is stored in paper batch records, some of it is in Excel files, etc. So, but that is probably the biggest challenge to manufacturing, getting at the data. There's no doubt it's there, but to get at it is the thing, and and being able to contextualize it. So I hope that answers the question about whether it is, once we have the data, manufacturing, that's the most difficult part of it, getting at the data. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this. So we are at the webinar's end. So I would like to thank you all for doing this amazing lecture. Both Giulia's, thank you very much. Donal, thank you for joining us as well. Big thank you for in general to the Aizon team for teaming with us for this webinar, and of course our amazing audience who always wants to continue excelling and learning more. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope to see you at our next webinars with Aizon as well. We have several planned in a series still, so please keep your eyes on the mailbox and make sure you don't miss more of our sessions together. So on this note, thank you and have a good day, good evening, good night, depending on your meeting.
Thank you, everyone.